We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word. He's never failed me yet.
I'm a seventh-generation Catholic on my mama's side. My father was a Baptist in Birmingham, Alabama. 6th Avenue Baptist Church, which is the largest Baptist church, Black Baptist church in Alabama. So I grew up in Birmingham. I went to Immaculata Church, and I ran up the hill to 6th Avenue for Sunday school. So I grew up in both churches. But the thing about it is that it's the faith that you have, and you never say, I'm better than you. So I grew up in two churches, but the people in the Baptist church say, well, no different than people in Immaculata. We're all trying to strive for the same thing, and that is to get to heaven, okay? So I just grew up as a Catholic, and I'm proud of my religion. I was selected, fortunately, to go in my high school, which is St. Augustine High School in New Orleans, one of the top high schools, I think, in the country, all black boys. Matter of fact, we in the Hall of Fame, and I mean the Black African-American Museum in D.C., called Social Justice, Civil Rights, and Sports. But anyway, I was looking at going to church because I had an early morning flight that Sunday, and I'm not a Saturday churchgoer, I'm a Sunday churchgoer, okay? But I said the only way I could do this is go Saturday. So I knew St. Patrick's was in the downtown area, and they had the 5:30 Mass. So I went over, and I took my seat, and, good service, went to communion. And what struck me was the fact that as an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid growing up in New Orleans, my grandmother would go over to St. Patrick's for Mass. And the seat that I was sitting in was a seat that I sat in as a little boy. And it was a screen in front of me, just like a screen, your house screen, you know? And we as African Americans sat behind that screen because it was segregated South. So we sat back there, and that's why I was sitting in that seat. And then because I was sitting in that seat, I went to communion, and I was one of the last ones to go to communion, which was very common in the South, that blacks would be the last one getting communion, you know? So when I came out, and I was a young priest, and he said, well, how you doing? I said, fine. I said, Father, let me show you something. I said, see that seat right there? He said, yeah. I said, well, I sat there when I was 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, but there was something different. There was a screen in front of me because the screen, I said, like you put a screen on your house, screen doors and what have you. He said, really? I said, yeah. I said, because I was black. We were black. We could not sit in front of that screen. So the church was saying to us, you could be Catholics, but you're really not a part of us. So I said, we've come a long ways. I said, but he was kind of stunned. I said, by the way, I was the last one to get communion because that was a standard in the South. This is nothing different for me, but it's all blacks, Catholics, So it says something to be a black Catholic because you have to fight for it. You got to say, I want to be a black Catholic. I want to be a Catholic, and I'm black. But if I go to my black church, but if I have to go to a white church, I'm different. So whoever is a black Catholic will tell you that. There's stories. Everybody has a story about that. So that's one of many. But the point is that an African American in the South during those days, and maybe up north, I don't know, had to go through that and had to say, I'm going to take this, quote, abuse, but I'm still a black Catholic. I'm still a Catholic. Well, growing up in the South, was a way of living. We knew as blacks what we could and what we couldn't do coming up. Whether you got on a bus and there was a sign in front of you saying color only, we sat behind the colored sign. We go to the department store and we can't, they won't let us try on the clothes. You either take it and go. Go to the shoe store, either take it, you couldn't try on the shoes. So we kind of grew up with that, okay? Because it was like a stand, this is how life is, So you don't think about it, that much. And your parents kind of keep you in line that you don't cross over. So when Emmett Till was killed, I was 10, 11, it affected all of us, black males, because we happened to see his picture in the Jet magazine, and that was devastating to us. And because we could be Emmett Till, and we always were frightened about the police and frightened about the Klan. And it was real, So as you grow up, and as I got into high school, I went into the seminary, and going to Philadelphia, which is across the Mason-Dixon line. So that's across Baltimore. You're in high heaven as a black. Well, you get to the seminary, and you were the only black in that class, and all of a sudden you're in the rec room and a guy calls you the N-word. And I took off on that guy. So I knew I was going to get put out. But here I come all the way to Philadelphia, and somebody calls me what they called me down in New Orleans or in Birmingham. It doesn't change, You're still black no matter where you go. Just different way they treat you. They didn't have a sign in front of you, but it was still there, So growing up that way is you just knew how to work within that, And when I got to college, my freshman year, I went to Grambling, and we decided we're not going to take this. We don't give a hoot. We're not going to take it. So from being a member of SNCC, being a member of CORE, I was never a freedom rider, but I would have been. But we were always changing the time. You're not going to tell us that we can't go in the store and try on your clothes. We're going to try them on. We're not going to sit in the back, get our lunch out of a window. We're going to sit at that counter. We're not going to sit in front of a sign and throw the daggone sign out of the window, which we did. So it wasn't rebellion. We were tired of it, okay? And then you had Martin Luther King. Dr. King was a pacifist. Gandhi, kind of a school from Gandhi. We were not the school from Gandhi. We were school, the Panthers. we were tired, okay? And we were ready to take whatever we had to take to change that way of behavior. And it did. Things began. The Deacons for Defense, they start carrying guns, okay? And to protect us, So it was tough. But we understood how to function in the society, But at one point, we just said we kind of fed up with this. And we were fed up with blacks that stood up and said it's okay. No, it's not okay. In New Orleans, we had collecting money after second collection for the Youth Progress, Colored Progress. Well, come to find out, when I went back to my school as a teacher, Archbishop Cody, who became Cardinal Cody out of Chicago, the Diocese of New Orleans took the money out of that fund and built 4 high schools, all in the suburbs, all white. Not one penny went into our schools. Xavier Prep, St. Mary's Academy, and St. Augustine. We said, we're not going to take this. So we went down to the diocese and said, we want our money back. So Cody was a huge guy, So he just, because he had just excommunicated Leander Perez for not accepting Bishop Perry, who was a black bishop appointed by the Pope. And so he said, well, who might say, go ahead, do what you want to do to us, but we want our money back. We don't have a gym. We're tired of playing basketball on blacktop. We don't have a science lab. We got 10 Bunsen burners in chemistry. We have to take turns doing lab work? No, we're not going to do this. So by the time we were really dealing with this, Archbishop Hanna comes in from D.C. Hanna was more of a, a little different than Cody. So we were able to get what we needed for our school, But here they took the money and 4 schools, Archbishop Blank, Archbishop Chappelle, Archbishop Rummel, Archbishop Shaw, all in the suburbs. Not one penny went into one of our schools in New Orleans, And we just said we're not going to take it. To integrate high school athletics in the South, we had to teach our kids to take abuse. N-word, we used to use N-word on the field, we cuss word on the field to get our kids, emotional about it. You cannot be emotional. That's what they want you to do. So we did them 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, I got to give them credit. They listened, they did a yeoman's job. So all of a sudden they admit a public school into our league, which is from Plaquemine Parish. Now you read about Plaquemine Parish and you see the Perez family and the clan. I mean, that's where they exist. That's their home base in Louisiana. So we end up going to Chalmette, which is right like going to Southfield. That's the distance, right across the line, to play them at their home. And everybody was worried about maybe we ought to cancel the game. And so I was a athletic director and also football coach. I said, look, I don't want to put our kids in harm's way. But what I want to do is to bring the parents in and talk to them. Let's talk about it, including the band parents, because our band, like 150 boys, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. If we're going to make this decision, we'll make it collectively. So we presented it to the kids and to the parents, all what we're going into, like going to a dungeon. I mean, we were threatened, don't come down here, we're going to shoot you. I mean, all these things were given. This is 1970, okay? So the parents and the kids said, we want to go. So we voted. Was not one person voted no. So the New Orleans Police Department, because we had quite a few kids or graduates that were in the police, so they lined up police vehicles, all these parish sheriffs lined up, and we average at our games, at our home games, about 23,000. On our traveling, we average about 15,000. So we take buses, okay? So we brought bus loads of black people into Plaquemine Parish that night. Unbelievable. And as we got off the bus, our kids, fans went in the stands. And as we went into the so-called our locker room, which was the cafeteria, they had these dogs tied up on the post, on the fence post. And they were rocking that fence. Those dogs were rocking that fence. The fence was rocking. Our kids were threatening. I mean, that was a threatening situation. So we looking at these dogs, oh my God, So we have to show some kind of leadership here, but it was scary. It was scary. So we come on the field, warmed up, went back into the cafeteria, went through these dogs again, and we see they had a couple of crosses being burned across the street. And so game starts, and our band plays, but our band was playing softly. I looked in the stands, and our folks were looking everybody was looking scary. What's going to happen here? So halftime was 14-14. So we go in the locker room, and the window in the cafeteria is about this high. So we sat under the window. So we're on our bellies talking to our kids, because we didn't want our kids to be sitting up so a brick could come in and what have you. Fortunately, no brick came in, but we weren't taking any chances. So we're in there, and I don't know what happened. But we said, you know what? Why don't we play? They were playing Dixie. They had this big Confederate flag, and they were waving this. I mean, it was just, I mean, they were just blamming it. So we said, you know what? Why don't we play our theme song, We Shall Overcome? So we sent a message out to Hamp, the band director, we're gonna play We Shall Overcome. That's how we come out on this field. And when we came out there and those 15,000 black people got up and started singing that song, You know, it was, excuse me. It was unbelievable. And we beat them 27 or 28 to 14, beat the devil out of them. But we weren't scared. We stood up, our kids, and we have a tendency after the game, and they have it all over, kids shake hands. We knew they were not going to shake our hands. So we said, we're walking across this field. If they don't meet us, we're walking across this field. And walked across that field. And I saw Bobby Nuntz, who was the coach of Chalmette. He looked up, it's like it was yesterday. And he looked at his kids, and his quarterback, Wentz, who played for Ole Miss, stepped forward. And when he stepped forward, those kids stepped forward. And our kids and their kids shook hands and walked together. It was not them. It was how they were brought up. And it was just an unbelievable experience. I never forgot that night. I see our kids today, still call them kids, they're grown 70-year-old guys, and many of them remember that, changed their life, because hate is in you. And we were mad, you know. But when we left there, we got on our bus, and Dixie didn't play Dixie. There was no more Dixie. Overcame Dixie that night, you know. And from that day forward, it spread through the state of Louisiana. And we had Bogalusa, Shreveport, Alexander, all these places that hate us as black people changed. We played Bogalusa, it was just like a normal game. Nobody asked the kids, shook hands, and so I give that night a lot, you know, but I give our Lord a lot because He guided us. Like we always say at the end of our prayers, St. Joseph, pray for us, St. Augustine, pray for us. And that's what I do every Sunday. I light a candle over the altar of St. Joseph. That's a part of me. We believe that St. Joseph led us in our struggles, you know, coming up, playing football, playing baseball. He was there. In what I've done in my life and my jobs, every day I make one promise. Jesus, let me do the right thing for the right reason and never let me abuse somebody. That's every day I do that. That's my first prayer. I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to do the right thing for the right reason. You may not like what I've done, you might like my decision, but I'm not doing it selfishly. I'm doing it for what I think is good for the masses. And that's been my life. You know, I mean, whether it's integrating high school athletics or whether it's building an automotive plant over here in the so-called, quote, Pole Town, you know? Are you doing it for the right reasons, for the right purpose, and unselfish? It's not for you. You know, and I looked at in my life, and most of my life is in the service end, you know? And I tell young folks that are in government that our P&L statements are different. In government, our P&L statements is how many trees I planted, how many rec programs I have, how many houses I rehab. In the private sector, how many cars I sold. It's a dollar sign on a P&L statement. On the government side, there's no P&L statement with a dollar sign. So it's a service. So that service that you're rendering is, you got to have the right, you got to want to do it. So if you want to be you can't be in this service and integrate in your private sector. It doesn't work. That's why people get in trouble, you know? So, but I do that every day. I mean, I'm not nothing. People say the rosary. A lot of people say the rosary. I pray, say my prayers. morning prayer, evening prayer, and but I don't pray like when I was 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. I got a different way of praying, because and I don't expect when I pray that I got to get something back. You know what I mean? Well, I just want to make sure these are the things that I'm doing, and guide me to get these things done the right way. That's many times my prayer. With his family, with his job, with his friends, just make sure that these are things I want to happen, but make sure it's maybe they don't happen because they shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's everybody has their way of praying. My grandfather told me, don't go around hating people, because that's not good. He said, you've got a lot of stuff you go through in Birmingham. It'll change. It's only going to change one way, collectively, in prayer, working together, and love. Well, it's easy to hate, but it's hard to love. But that's what it's all about, love. That's what it's all about.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind,